Hey, so this is Trans Radical Rationale. I'm your hostess, MX Martha. How you guys doing? How you folks doing, right? Beautiful people. So, once again, like, I really didn't have a concise topic because, honestly, I'm just trying to, like, continue to get these video out here. And usually so far I've been posting, like, pretty regularly. And that's been feeling, like, amazing because it's like, the more you post, the more you get to, I guess, see yourself and to get a little better, get a little extra with the designs and the graphics. So I'm liking that. One of the things I was going to talk about was giving back to the community as a way for to promote trans excellency, to promote that like transgender folks are not this selfish surgery grabbing like minority group that so many groups like so many right wings like try to paint us as that, like, you know, a lot of times we're just coming for rights for surgery or we're draining the welfare system, when in fact we're really not, in the grand scheme of like thing of like society. You know, we are a minority, so it just happens that a lot of the surgery that should be provided would help us out too, but like they don't want to cover, you know, like for example, like surgery to any surgeries that can help women like survive, and reproductive surgery and anything that has to do with reproductive organs. A lot of times insurance companies won't cover because a lot of times it comes with a pre-existing condition. Sometimes but sometimes a lot of those sexual reconstructive surgeries affect the transgender population as well. So a lot of times we get avoid, you know, taking that controversy and telling your constituents that basically we won't provide for you despite all the work that you've done for your community, because you have a disorder that too many people in the U.S. suffer with especially as a pre-existing condition. And so the best way I think is to blame the transgender population, which has been going on since, you know, since like 1950s, you know, Nazi Germany. You can go back further, like prosecute, you know, of the gender non-conforming, like the Salem witches trial. Any women that were tagged gender non-conforming, being called a witch and being burned at the stake. So it's sad that like we actually do have like a legitimate like at least, you know, 100-year history, 100 years of history, hundreds of years of history of blaming transgender society or gender non-conforming society when, you know, when society wants to avoid providing the world with a need that does assist with the greater population. So tired of being blamed for all that, I feel like the best way to do that is to give back. Not just give back to the transgender community, but that is important because giving back to the transgender community shows that we can make our own, we can take care of our own. And I am interested to see what that would look like. I know I'd like to visit San Francisco, where it's just the first ever transgender cultural arts system, cultural district. So I would love to see that to see. I guess that would be like our first, like, you know, case study of transgender society interacting and surviving as the majority, ideally. Do I think it's possible? Yeah, because, you know, the community comes together. The transgender community was able to take something that was called a disorder, something that was called just a thing you do in the privacy of your own homes, just a phase, and turn it into a movement to where a lot of people who previously were staunchly against transgender community are hopping on board, and I don't even know if it's record numbers. I will admit that, but I will say it is an interesting, consistent climb that like these societal members are joining the transgender community, because it usually comes about when they see someone that like represents their ideal self, or someone they can ideally perceive, something that can make the transgender and gender non-conforming real. And that only comes about as we become more diverse, become more visible. And one of the best ways to become more visible is advocacy work. And that's when it gets to like not just advocacy work for your own community, but advocacy work for the society as a whole, which will hopefully, ideally, endear you to other communities, which previously had inherent biases that might have prevented that partnership from coming through. But sorry, I'm a little sick also. That having that we can come together and see that we have a lot of the same interests and a lot of the same goals of a united world. The transgender community is, I think, don't quote me on it, but I think one of the most diverse communities, because of it encapsulates gender as opposed to breakdowns, which attacks gender, which we previously believed to be this rigid structure of boy or girl, and now it's encapsulating the whole world is being shaken, because if the majority or with the exception of intersex or agender individuals, were broken down into these two categories socially, as opposed to you could take race in Brazil, which race is broken down into dozens of categories. In America here, we had race classified as white or black. Then we determined that hey, all right, that was stupid. And once we did, we became much more diverse and realized that a lot of us have a lot of goals in common. I believe that's when you see previously what would have been considered a redneck, who has a farm or anything, but really has really a great what's it called, commonality with the a hood African American individual who's just looking for jobs and to support their family when the government is not providing those jobs. So when we learned that there's a lot of intersect, that these previous conceived notions of what we were classified into exist. Once we stop acknowledging that, we realize that we're either a lot more united than we are, or we're more diverse from our previous group than we are, which loosens up this chains of sociological bondage, where we're stuck to the communities that we hold. But this transgender, I want to say boom, but I want to say boom just because it is a better word, but I don't want it to be all made into a just a trend or something. But it is a boom, and this it's showing how diverse it is, because a lot of people are uniting over being trans instead of uniting over their previous boxes that they were stuffed into. In fact, they're looking at the boxes and saying that, hey, I'd rather identify as trans first, and then it goes into or they decide that their original classification, and then they're trans second. But either way, it's a magnificent unifying thing where we come together. So once again, advocacy work. So one thing with my group, Trans Radical Rationale, one thing we did was hand out food to the homeless, and that was awesome because I used to do that previously when I used to do that solo. This was the first time being able to do that with a group, but when I had background, I used to do it solo because I wanted the ability to express my gender without going someplace that I just didn't feel comfortable in. Because I didn't really want to go to bars. I didn't really want to go to clubs. I like bars, but I don't. And clubs are okay, but it's not my prerogative when when money is not at hand. So wondering if places to go, what to do. I loved going outside, being myself, but it's it's tough until you're really comfortable with yourself. And the best way to get comfortable with yourself is to get out there and interact. We're social beings, and the best way to do that is interact socially. So one of the best ways I found to do that was through taking a couple of bits of snacks and taking my bike and riding around and handing out some food to people I saw that was in need. And that was awesome because I got to sort of have a reason to leave the house, because you hear about the common statement amongst the trans community, all dressed up and nowhere to go. Well, this was a way to get all dressed up and have someplace to go. Have someplace to go that's important. And once you also add that important tag, it adds to your professionalism, because now you're not just dressing just to be pretty or something like that, which is important. Validate yourself how you gotta validate yourself. But it was great is that you got out there and you're thinking of in a mindset of an organization, of someone that has something that they need to get out to people. How are they going to get it in the most efficient way? So it puts you in that mindset, which organizes you, or not organizes you in the sense of putting your paperwork away, but because it probably add more paperwork, but organizing you by creating a trans sense of self-organization as a whole. I like to use the pronoun thon when I talk about organization. So the zer, her, she, they, them, person, hen, those pronouns in it, e, g, z, when you know the pronouns and everything, that one of the pronouns is thon, and I like it because it's such a massive word that I can use to if I want to talk about a business, I won't use male pronouns to talk about a business. I use thon, and in reference to oneself, thon is also applied. So it turns you from they, them into a thon, which is, in my opinion, a strong gender neutral pronoun, because you have now a product, you have money that's going into it, and you want to continue to generate funds to be able to help these people. So it turns you into a sort of an organization of some sort, a self-organization, a brand, which is great because a part of presentation is basically branding yourself as how you want to be seen. So it worked out well. It was scary, not gonna lie, because I did it at night, and some people just don't want to be bothered. There's still the issue of violence against trans women out there. Also, people, they might not even have a problem with you, but you're walking up with them and they don't know you and trying to hand them food. So initially, I was terrified, and I did this terribly. At first, I put the food there and then sprint away on my bike, but after a while, and definitely learned how to do this the time I went out with as a group, as TRR members, was that it, being talking to the people that we came across, and it was very interesting. It was awesome. it was very affirming because gender wasn't like on the forefront. It's very like the the few, or if not like, yeah, the very few, aside from being a part of a transgender and gender nonconforming community, when I'm in front of the community, where gender didn't have to be on the forefront, and it was just more so, it was just me. It wasn't like having to be like trans woman Martha, or look at that trans woman, or like have a question about it. It was literally like how it should be, how it is with when you're around trans and gender nonconforming folks, is when like, is that like you don't have to have gender on your mind, and that's like a really like relaxing thing. So like I recommend that, whether you have an organization, a small group or something. What we did was we took top ramen, pack of top ramen, a container, like kettle, hot water. Went into a bodega, grocery store, and asked if we could use the hot water. They obliged. They were very nice about it. It was amazing. Use it from the coffee, and then like have some like cups and like some coffee packets, and went around asking, hey, would you like some? So it was really cool. We'll try to do it every week, which is going to be, I'm not going to lie to you, a little tiring, especially the way I feel a little bit today. But it makes it all worth it, especially the more consistent you can do it. Because like the videos, the more consistency that you apply to it, the more the rough pieces you can figure out. The times when you can figure out these days when I'm not feeling good, and I can get someone to cover my place to do this. But in the meanwhile, this is good. This is good for me too, because it forces me to not be transplacent, and not be comfortable with just merely dressing en femme, you know, like, which is great because this is steps to get there. Like, if you told me I would have been able to just like use this, you know, space to just dress femme, and like I paid $1 million, like, because that's ironically that's a lot. Like only people need, really. Give them a space, like a closet and a mirror or something, the clothes of their choice, and you'll find someone who's happy as a clam, just being themselves. And I wonder, I believe this applies to cis as well. Like if you give them like a uniform or something, a room full of uniform, or costume shop. Like people love costume shops because they get to just be them. And if you took away all that restriction on like gender, if like you just had like a box and you just said like you have to like try on everything in the box, or play out the role of everything in the box, it changes up people's mentalities who didn't have like a gender free mentality before. So, which is awesome, you know. By all means, be a gender zucker, you know, like zuck the gender up, because people usually walk away a lot stronger than they did before. Find that people age better once they are able to understand the path of the transgender and gender nonconforming folk, because this is going to be like the future thing, you know, and it's the present now. So you can either, there's people that get stuck not riding the wave and they're seeing what happens, and it's an amazing thing to have a community that was basically built off of the backs of you're just a phase, or you're just a thing to do on the side, and you know, not even give the respect. Now we deserve that respect, and it's a big thing. It feels great as a community to come together.